Okay, so what is the first view that we're going to be creating? Okay, so in the views PY, I'm going to import from API.models. I simply want to import remember the profile and the user. That's it. And also I'm going to say from API.serializers, I want to import the profile. Do I have the profile serializer? I don't think so. And I'm also going to import my token obtain pair serializer. Simple as that. And yeah, that's pretty much what I need. And I also need one more thing. I'm going to say from REST framework dot decorators, I pretty much want to import the API view. Okay, for now, okay, let's just leave it. Now let's go ahead and create a class. This one I'm going to call it my token. I can say my token obtain pair view. As simple as that. We have this over here. I could just grab this view and I could put it in here. Okay, my token obtain pair view, as simple as that. And this one is gonna inherit from token obtain pair view. And for the token obtain pair view, we need to go ahead and import it. So I'm gonna say from REST framework simple JWT dot views, I want to import token obtain pair view. Token obtain pair view. Now this one is pretty much gonna inherit from there. And yeah, that's it. Now we need to pass in a serializer class, and the serializer class is going to be the serializer that we created in here. So remember this one. That's what we're going to be using over here for the serializer class. This one is pretty much just one that we imported. This name, you can call it whatever you want. Okay, and that's pretty much what we want to do for that. Now let's go ahead and also create the register view. So I'm going to say register view. There you go. And for this one, let's inherit from generics dot create API view. And for that, we need to go ahead and import generics. Now, how do we do that? I'm pretty much gonna say from REST framework. So I'm gonna say from REST framework, I want to import generics. And for this one, we're gonna inherit from generics dot create API view. I know it might be difficult to understand what's going on now, but don't worry guys, from the future tutorials, I'm going to be working extensively with React and Django, and we're going to be working extensively with APIs, and you guys are going to understand what all this does and how the list API create, retrieve, destroy, update, patch, how all this works. Don't worry, I'm going to show you guys how it works. But for now, in order to be able to create a new user, you want to use the create API view. You want a list user, you use the list. You want to update, you use the update. You use the retrieve instead, and all that. Okay. No, for the update, you use update. To get a particular user detail, you use retrieve. That's how it works. So when we've done this, we're going to go ahead and pass in a couple of things for the query set. This one is going to be user.object.all. So all CBV class-based views must take query sets, okay, just like this. And also they must take a permission classes. So the permission classes for this one, we could use allow is any. And for this one, we need to go ahead and import it. So let's just get down here at the top, and we need to say from REST framework dot decorators. That's not it. From REST framework dot decorators dot. Okay, instead we could go ahead and I think we already have this over here. Let's just import the permission classes like that. And for the allow is any, we could even go ahead and let's get rid of permission classes. I don't think we're going to be using that. We could just say from REST framework dot decorators dot, what is it called again? I think it's permission. Yeah, permission. We need to import allow any. Yeah, that's what I'm looking for. So for the permission over here, I'm going to pass in allow any. Now there are some other permission like it's authenticated and all that. So is authenticated. For example, a user can only access that view if they are authenticated and all that. But for the register, let's allow any of the permission classes. And finally, we need a serializer class, and the serializer class is going to be what? The register serializer class. I don't think we imported that. Let's import it. So remember the register serializer. That's what we're going to be using over here. Register serializer. And that's pretty much what we want to do for now. Later, we're going to be creating, a route that's going to only work if a user is authenticated. You know what? Let's just go ahead and create a route now. So I'm gonna say class, and let's just call this one, I don't know, we could just call it protected route, or let's just call it dashboard. Okay, dashboard view. You call it whatever you want. Well, for the permission classes, this one is gonna be okay. Let's see, dashboard view. Let's just pass in a retrieve update here. So I'm gonna say generics dot. Let's use a retrieve retrieve API view. But if I want to use a retrieve API view, I think we're gonna have an issue. So for now, I'm just gonna keep things easy and let's use a function based view. Okay, so I'm just gonna say define dashboard, as simple as that, and I'm gonna pass in a request. And over here at the top, we simply need to call the API view that we imported before, and this time around we're gonna pass in it should be either a get or a what post. So we can either run a get request or a post request on this view. And also for the permission classes, remember we tried importing permission classes from over here. I'm gonna import that again, permission classes. For this one, this is how we usually do it for function based view. We're gonna pass in permission classes, and in here it's gonna be is authenticated, just like that. And you want to make sure to pass in the @ or we're gonna continue getting this error. So after we've done this, that's pretty much what we want to do. Now let's go ahead and check for something. So if the request.method is equal to, let's start with the get. So if the request.method is get, what do we want to do? I could just call this context, or you could call it data, or you could call it my name, or whatever. I'm just gonna use context, or you could call it whatever you want. So I'm gonna say context, and I'm gonna use an formatted string. I'm gonna say hey. Then over here, I'm simply going to say request.user. It's going to call the name of the user that's logged in. So I'm going to say, hey, user, you are visiting you are seeing a get response or something. You are seeing a get response. I think that's pretty much it. You can pass in whatever you want. Now we need to go ahead and return, I think that should be response, but we need to import response at the top. I'm pretty much sure we need to import response. So how do we import response? Hopefully I can still remember. That should be from, I think it's from REST framework.response. We need to import. Yep, that's it. Still remembered. Now we need to go ahead and import response. And what is the response gonna return? So I think firstly, let's start off by passing in the dictionary here, and we're gonna call this response. And alongside that, we're simply gonna pass in the context. Okay. So take notes, you can also call this over here response. It's totally up to you, whatever you want to call it. Then we're going to pass the response in here. And whenever it takes that in, we can also go ahead and pass in a status. So the status should be equal to what? I'm going to say status dot http underscore 200 underscore okay. But we need to import status. Okay, so we need to say from REST framework. From REST framework imports generics, from REST framework imports status. There you go. So yeah, this is working perfectly well. HTTP 200. Okay, that's it. So now after we've done that, I think that's pretty much what you want to do for the get. Let's go ahead and work with a post. So Elif, what if it was a post request? What do we want to do? I'm gonna say something like, so what if the request is a post method and not a get method? What do we want to do? But instead of just saying Elif, let's just say Elif. Instead of saying Elif, you could use else, but I want to be explicit. So I'm gonna say Elif request.method request.method is equal to post, just like this. Now what do I want to do? I could go ahead and pass in the text, and for this text I could say something like let's just say request.post.get, and let's just pass in the text. So whatever we're passing in here as a text, that's what we want to call. Now for this one, I'm gonna say context again, or we could say response. Remember how we did it from the last time? So I'm gonna say response should be equal to an formatted string, and I'm gonna say hey destiny or something. So I'm gonna say hey, then request.user, hey request.user, comma I'm just gonna say your text is, then let's just pass in the text. So this is just for testing purposes, guys. I just want you guys to know that nothing much is just for testing purposes. And I'm over here, I'm gonna return a response, and this one is gonna be a response. Hopefully you guys already know response, and this is the status. And finally, the whole function is gonna return its overall response. That's gonna be it. And for this one, I'm gonna use an empty dictionary over here. That's what we want. And HTTP is gonna be for HTTP 400. This is what we're looking for over here, 400 bad request. Okay, so if it's not a get method, if it's not a post method, then it's a bad request, as simple as that. Now let's check out our terminal. Everything is still working perfectly well. Now back to the URL, we're going to import the URLs that we just created. So I'm going to say from API I want to go ahead and import views, or you could explicitly import everything that we've just created. Okay, so now how do we start running all this, there is going to be a path over here, and let's start off by passing in a token. Now this first one for the token is going to go to views dot the what did I call it? I called it by token obtained pair, right? Take note, it's a class-based view, so it's going to take the as view over there, just like that. That's pretty much what we need. And also, if you want, you can pass in the name. It's not compulsory, so I'm going to leave it. And also, there's going to be another part. This one is going to be the part for the token refresh. So this is going to be slash refresh, just like this. And this one is going to be this one that we imported over here. So I'm just going to pass it in. It's also a class-based view, so I'm going to say that as view, just like that, passing a comma. And there's also going to be a part. This one is going to be for the register. For the register, there should be a slash over there, and this is going to be views dot register view dot as view, because it's a class-based view, just like I've been saying. And finally, the dashboard. So there's also going to be a part. This one is going to be for the dashboard. There's going to be a slash over there, and let's just say views dot what dashboard. As simple as that. Then you can pass in the name if you want. And yeah, I think that's pretty much everything that we need. Let's see if this is still running perfectly well. I'm going to break off from there, and I'm going to run python manage.py run server. And this should go ahead and speed the server up if there is no mistake at all. Hopefully that's it. Let's just give it some time, and as you can see, seems it's working. Yeah. So now if I open up my browser and I come over to here, I'm gonna close up all this. It's beginning to get a little bit messy. Close up all this, close this one up, close this one up, and if I come over to port 8000/API, now we could see some of the things that we got. We haven't imported the API. Let's just go ahead and install it now. So I'm going to open up the main URLs in the back end, and I simply want to include alongside that. And over here, I'm just going to say part. Then what should the part be? It should be API slash. And over here, we just want to include what? I'm going to say include API.urls. So the API app over here, dot the URLs. As simple as that. Now let's go ahead and make sure this is still running well. And if we refresh this now, we can see API token, API this, API that. So if I come over to API register, let's see what we are getting. Hopefully, okay, yeah, we're getting an error. It says base permission meta class is not object is not iterable. So there is a problem. Let's see where we're getting this error from. Could it be from the serializer? The model serializer class meta. Could it be that okay, let's just take a close look at this. Yeah, that's the problem. So all these are not supposed to be indented. Hopefully you guys saw that before me. And yeah, let's see if this is running again. Yes, it is. Let's break out from that and let's run the terminal. Let's run the server again. There you go. Okay, we're still getting the same error. Let's see what the problem might be. Okay, let's fix this. Okay, so I'm guessing that this error should be coming from the views over here. Either this would be a list like this. Let's see if that's gonna work. Yeah, it's working. So either you make it a list or you add a comma over here, because it's a tuple, just like what I told you guys before. So now let's refresh. It's working. So let's open up our admin and see the users that we've got so far. So if I open up my admin and come over to the users, what do you notice? I only have Destiny. So let me try creating a new user with this. I'm going to pass in their password, testing321. So I pass in testing321 as the password 1, and I'm going to pass in testing321 as the password 2. So if I make a mistake with the password and post this, what do you notice? It says password fields does not match. That's pretty much what we want to do. So now if I pass this in and everything works well, what do you notice? It creates the user for us and it returns them. Now if I refresh, what do you notice? This is the user, and their password is what's hashed over here. There you go. And if you come over to profile, it also created the profile for them. That's pretty amazing. So right now, let's try logging in. So we also have this one called token. Now if I come over to /token, refresh, now it needs to log in. So if I pass in a user that does not exist and hit post, what do you notice? No active accounts without giving credential. But if I pass in the user with the email that we just created for this dude over here, I'm going to copy their email and I'm going to paste it and hit post. Okay, nice one. We're getting an error. It says object of type image field is not JSON serializable. That error is coming from the serializers, and that's because we need to serialize this image and return it as a string. Yeah, so pass that in as a string, and let's see if this is running again. It is. Now let's refresh. There you go. What do you notice? It returned the access and the refresh token. So now let's go ahead and try running that and see how everything works. So I'm gonna copy this, and hopefully it returns the user details and all that. So we copy that, we come over to the JWT token, and we refresh this. Hopefully I'm still connected to the internet. And okay, so we come over to JWT.io. We make sure that we copied this over here. I'm gonna copy it again so that you guys can see. When we copy this, we come over here and we paste it. Now what do you notice? It returned their username, which is this. As you can see, that's their username. It returned their email. It didn't return any full name, and it didn't return any password. Rather, it didn't return any full name. That's because we don't have a full name yet. Let's go ahead and create a full name. This is their full name. This is their bio. And I'm just going to say front-end engineer, something like that. And I'm going to go ahead and save this. So again, we need to run this again. So whenever there is an update, a user, we need to refresh the access token. So instead of refreshing, we could pretty much come over here and grab this one. Remember this one over here? We could use it and refresh the token. But for this one, it needs to take in the refresh token before it works. So it needs to take in this token that we want to refresh. And now if we come over to refresh, we need to pass this in and post. What do you notice? It refreshed it for us. So now we're going to copy this one now. And over here, if we paste it, what do you notice? Gets the URL, gets the email, gets the full name, and every other thing that we're going to be needing. So yeah, that's pretty much it. I think it's working fine. Now if we come over to the dashboard, so remember we've been working with the other ones, but we haven't tested out the dashboard. If we come over here to the dashboard and send this, now it says authentication credentials not provided. Now we cannot run this from over here. We need to run it with something like Postman, okay, or Firecamp. That's only what we can run it with. But I'm going to open up my Postman. You want to make sure that you have Postman installed. If you don't have Postman, just hop over to their official website, Postman, or you can search for Postman download on your browser, and you can go ahead and download Postman from over here. It's totally free for you to test out your applications. So I'm going to go ahead and open up Postman now. I don't know, it usually takes some time to open up my PC. Hopefully that's going to run quick, but when it's done opening, I'm going to go ahead and get back, then we can continue. Okay, as you can see, it's finally opened up over here. Now in order to run this, you can see that I actually gave you guys a quick method on how you could test out the dashboard. So the function will return this. Okay, as you can see, if you also want to run the test on your Postman, then you need to click on authorization. So I'm going to get back. Let's get rid of this. So I'm going to create a new one. I'm just going to create a new request over here. I'm going to say new request, and we need to pass in our URL that we're trying to test. This is it over here, right? I'm going to copy this and I'm going to pass it in here. We're going to start off with the get request. Now, if we send this, it should say the same thing as no validation error. As you can see, no authentication provided. So for that, we need to click on authorization. We need to click on the bearer token, and we need to pass in our refresh token in here. So you can follow along with this. I showed you how to do it. Then paste the latest access token instead. That's what we want to pass in. So what is the latest access token for the user? I'm going to come over to token again. I'm going to log in. I've forgotten what their username, what their email is. So I'm going to come over to my user again. I'm going to grab this email and let's paste it. And let's try logging in again. Okay, now we need to copy this access token, this one over here. Copy the access, come over to the Postman, then paste it. So after we've pasted access, let's try sending this again. What do you notice? He says, hey, you are saying the get response. That's amazing. Now, how about we try using a post request? And for that, we need to come over to the body, choose the form data, and what did we pass in there in the views? We called it text, right? So we need to come over here. Key is going to be text. I'm going to say value should be, this is my post request. Now let's send. What do you notice? Hey, your text is, this is my post request. So that brings us to the end of the tutorial. Everything is working perfectly well. Now, if we come over to the authorization and mess around with even one of the access token and send, then we should have an error. There you go. The token is invalid. So yeah, that's pretty much it. Everything is working perfectly well, and you can also even go ahead and test your API from here. If you pass in the register, as you can see, it will want you to pass in I'm going to pass in send. It will want you to go ahead and pass in all this, and everything should work perfectly well. But I think testing the other API with this browsable API is perfect, and testing the authenticated one is perfect with this. So that brings us to the end of the tutorial. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the video and learned something new. And this is it for the back end. In the next one, we're going to go ahead and start working with the front end, and we're going to be working with React for that. And hopefully you guys are going to understand that. We're going to be utilizing all the APIs that we've created, the register, the token, the refresh, and everything is going to be working perfectly well. So that's going to be it. Do make sure to check out the link in the description below to download the code from GitHub. It's totally free, and also the template that we're going to be using in the next one. And until the next video, my love, peace out.